Welcome back to another review, folks, here at the Boneyard. So, considering the fact that I'm old school and I have seen the original and I've seen the new one, I think it's time to talk about it. Well, at least the new one. So we're going to go through the good, the bad, and the bare bones. Let's get to it. Now, let's start with the good. We're gonna go right out the bat. Pennywise. I'm not here to talk about the story. If you don't know the story, where have you been? Either way, Pennywise, Bill Skarsgård, the guy who plays him, was fucking epic. It was epic. It was epic. It was epic, and I absolutely loved his performance. I love everything he brought to the role, and I think they made a hell of a choice. And I think they should keep him for future projects regarding Pennywise. Now, also a piece of good was the kids. Notably, the kid from Stranger Things, and all the kids were incredible. Man, were they incredible. They gave you more time to know them this time around simply because they're not squeezing it all into a 3-hour miniseries made for TV, directed by people who make soap operas for a living. This took its time, got the characters onto the screen a little bit more, got you to know them a little bit more, and that was epic because I love every single one of these kids. I do. I love them all. And Losers Club, man, what else can you say? I loved everything about it. Now, another thing that's good is the things they kept from the book. A lot was in the book, and it's really hard, especially with Stephen King, to do anything that regards his stories because he does drown in detail a lot. And I mean that, a lot. He does drown in detail. Anybody who's read his books on the regular knows what I'm talking about. So they kept as much as they possibly could, and for that, I think it's a really, really cool thing to do. There was some Easter eggs in there, beep, beep, Richie. There was some other cool stuff in there, and if you know what I'm talking about, the context, it's awesome, isn't it? Now, the last thing was the gore. The gore in this movie is present, and the whole reason I'm mentioning this is because it's a monster movie. It is a monster, and it eats fucking children, so the gore has to be there to create that suspense, to create that these kids could get hurt, but it doesn't stop at the monster, and this is another reason I'm mentioning it. There are parts in this movie that are very violent and very disturbing, and it works so fucking well because they didn't shy away from it like other movies where it's like, oh no, can't hurt the children, not the children, they can't. No, fuck that. This movie goes balls the fuck out, and I love it. And I love it, I appreciate it so much, and I want more. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk about the bad. First and foremost, I just gotta get it off my chest. It is a Stephen King novel, so you're gonna have Stephen King pacing, which means that you are going to drown in some scenes, you are going to drown in some dialogue, you are going to sit there for a minute and wonder what the fuck this scene is about, and it happens not too often, but it happens often enough for you to actually ask the question, beg the question, why are we still on this scene? Why is this dialogue still continuing? Fuck me. Move it. Move on. This is time we could be, spent with Pennywise. Another bad thing is that it was shot for a 3D experience. Yes, sometimes that's cool, and if you're into the whole 3D thing, I'm not. So you lose just a little bit of pull. You lose some of the weight of the scenes when it's not in 3D. If you can see it in 3D and you want to see it in 3D, I suggest seeing it in 3D. You'll get the full experience. I did not, and it was more than obvious that some of these scenes were definitely shot for just that format, just the ooga booga going right into the camera and getting you to climb up out of your seat. Cool. In some scenes, I wish I could have seen a certain scene in 3D. That scene would have been cool. Towards the end of the movie, if you've seen it, you know what I mean. If you don't, trust me, I guess that one scene isn't worth the 3D, but it would have been cool to see it in 3D. There is also a lack of time spent on certain characters and a little bit of overtime spent with like with other characters. We get to know one character really, really well, and these other two characters not so well. And in the end, we do end up with the same story, and it is cool, and you do get it. It's just that, you know, you're just like, that could have been a thing. That could have been a thing. Why wasn't it a thing? Oh, right, because we're concentrating on this fucking story over here. But again, it goes back to the King pacing. The bad thing is also a couple of things they left out that were in the book. I don't do spoilers. But there's a piece at the end I wanted, was not in there. I understand it, but it still pisses me off. That would have been epic. Would have been cool. Would have been incredible. Now that that's out of the way, let's get right down to the bare bones. For anybody out there who's going to see this movie expecting to be mind blown, going to be icked out of their mind, or going to be crawling their seat with fear, that's not it. This is a Stephen King movie. So it's going to be a Stephen King story. You're still going to have everything there that makes a Stephen King story. You're still going to have Maine. You're still going to have small town people doing small town shitty people things. And you're still going to have the pacing, which is a big issue in some places. Not all places. So don't go in there, you know, fucking expecting, you know, Oscar-worthy stuff, because it is still a Stephen King movie. Secondly, it's not to be compared to the 1990 movie with the man himself, Tim Curry. Don't compare it. It's not fair. It's not fair. You can't do it. Simply because it's not the same movie. It's the same story, but it's not the same movie. Now, either I hear all these people, you know, complaining, oh, he wasn't as good as Tim Curry. Oh, he'll never... It's not supposed to be. And honestly, what do you want? Do you want something new? Do you want the same stories told in a better format with better effects and with more time devoted to the story? Or do you just want a shot-for-shot remake of a miniseries starring Tim Curry? Last thing is... second to last thing is they're not fucking around. And I like that. This movie is unapologetic about everything it is. There is incest, insinuated, not going to go too much into that. There is violence, there is abuse, there is things that are talked about in this movie and insinuated and played at, and it is unapologetic about that. They're not fucking around, and I love that, and I want more movies to do that. Lastly, this should be the standard for Stephen King movies, period. If they ever want to remake another Stephen King book, this is it. This is the template. This is the standard. This is the gold standard for Stephen King movies. And it should be, and it's worth it. So do I recommend this movie? Absolutely. See it in theaters, buy it on Blu-ray, give it as much support as you want, and look out for Chapter 2. Because I loved this movie, and I think anybody who's a true horror hound will. So you have my recommendation. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned.